Okay, Court, this is for you. This is how to make a bruschetta. It's a very simple food. You can get some roasted red peppers, which I'm not using this time, and you can get some basil, which I usually have, but I didn't actually grow any. I thought I was growing it this year. And I use this mozzarella. It's a marinated mozzarella. It's very nice. You can use any mozzarella. I would choose a buffalo mozzarella if you're not using that. Any mozzarella works. And then you just chop up some tomatoes. This is 2.5 tomatoes. This is about a half of a small red onion, and there's some white onion in there, which I actually like better, but the red was going bad. And this is banana pepper, because I did not have the roasted red pepper. The nice thing about this food is that as long as you have good tomatoes, the rest really doesn't matter. Good tomatoes, some nice onion, you're pretty much done. My big trick is I butter the bread, and I will come back and show you the next step. Okay, so I'm using an unsalted butter with canola oil. You can use anything. You can use margarine. I think you don't need salt for this particular meal. I buttered this bread. This is just a white French bread. This meal is actually really good with a sourdough. I like it on a sourdough quite a lot. Then I just mixed up my tomatoes. I've got 3 different kinds of tomatoes here. If you have just one kind, you don't have to do this. And then I put on a whole bunch of tomato. I basically cover the bread with tomato as much as I can get on there. And I'll do that for all of these pieces. And I try to make it just a single layer. I'll try to double layer the tomato because you're going to be cooking this a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit, because when you cook tomato, you take out, but not fully, because if you're going to cook it fully, it squishes up, right? Or it becomes like a stewed tomato. You don't want that. Then you draw out a little bit more of its flavor. So all I'm going to do is put this in the toaster oven for like 5 or 6 minutes. Probably more like 7, because I'm making four slices right now. So see, it's mostly just one layer of tomato. You see I've actually ended up using, this is because it was for these 4 big slices of bread, I've ended up using almost all the sliced tomato that was in my container there. And I'll end up throwing it all on here. Even though that goes a little over, I prefer to use the ingredients than get all nitpicky about my one layer decision. So as you can see, it's still pretty much one layer. I just sit there and dick around with it until it's where I want it to be. I cover the entire piece of bread, except for the very, very, very edge, because otherwise it's all going to fall off. And that's your first ingredient. Then you just sprinkle some onion in there. Not a lot. You want about half the amount of onion you have of the tomato. It's about what you want. I don't know about the peppers. I just threw them in there because I felt like it. But yeah, see, that's about enough onion. As you can see, it's not perfect on each one, but it's just there for flavor. You don't want it to overpower. I've got some chopped, some diced. It doesn't matter. And then I've got to put you down for a second. Actually, maybe what I can do, it's going to be sideways. So you're going to get a little confused by the sidewaysness of it all. Nope. Yep. Nope. Maybe. 1 second. This phone has a, there we go. Okay. So, hello. So, now I'm going to open the mozzarella. Actually, the next step is not mozzarella, sorry. The next thing I use is a shredded Parmesan cheese. You know, one of the ones that's all stringy. And I like that because it's a little more grainy. And I will just sprinkle that onto these fairly heavily because I fucking love cheese. It's the real bottom line is I love cheese. And that gives it a nice little bite without having to use any other spicing really. And then, now I put on the mozzarella. And the mozzarella is the last ingredient for this particular one. Sometimes you'll have, like I said, that other pepper, which is really good. You know, you might want to try this with a roasted red pepper, or you can try this with any ingredient that you like, that you think will add a little tang to it. Because this is pretty much the absolute simplest thing you can make. So what we're going to do, can you see me cutting stuff? Yeah, I think you can. So what we're going to do is I'm going to grab a fork. I'm going to grab a knife that's not a hawkbill knife because that's not really good for this next job. So I'm going to just grab a regular paring knife, take these out, and cut them in half. And I'm going to cut enough. I'm going to use basically 2 of these per piece, cut in half. The reason I'm cutting them in half is so they don't roll off of the bread. Real simple. Doesn't matter what size they are or which direction you cut them. Let's see, that's one. So as I take my hand, obviously I've washed my hands before this, and I'll just place them on the bread. 1, 2, right down the middle, and then they'll melt into the tomato and the rest of the fun shit. And then that's almost the last step. With this particular with these marinated jobbies, I grab some of the marinade from inside here and I'll pour that across because it has all kinds of wonderful Italian flavors, so why not? So this ends up having both margarine and butter on it. It's not really a health food, but it is an entire meal. 2 of these is pretty much an entire meal. You don't need any other food. You can't eat other stuff with it. You can use this as this is a good appetizer. I've used it as an appetizer many times. But if it's an appetizer for you, you need to use it as a light, you can make a fairly light dinner because you've just fed everybody 2 cheese balls, about a probably 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese, a tablespoon of butter. If I were to count out what I think is in these things. There's all kinds of stuff. Hopefully I cut the right number of things. I think I may just cut 1 too many. Big fucking deal. I'll use 1 more. Just make sure your stuff is still piled up nice. If you cut more cheese, use more cheese. I cut way too much cheese. I cut 3 extra. So each one of these is getting a couple extra pieces. And again, it's not like this is a perfect recipe. The only problem with adding extra to this is that it'll come off the bottom, come off the edges, and make a big mess in your toaster. That's why I try to center it in the middle, like that. And then you've got these, right? That's the next step is to throw them in the toaster oven. So it depends on your toaster. I have a big old Breville toaster over here, right over here, that I do like half my shit in. Let's see, can I make it so you can see my fat ass while I do this? Probably. Let's see. Okay, so here we go again. So this is a big old toaster. And it's a little bit of a pain in the ass to get these onto the toaster. So you want to make sure you're putting the edge of the plate right at the edge of this, otherwise there'll be a little drop and then all this stuff will fall into your toaster oven. And that is really annoying, because you have to clean your toaster oven. If anything falls off, just put it back on. So that's why I've got these set up so they can be sort of slid right onto here. As you can see, there's stuff falling off. Just put it back on. If stuff falls off into the toaster, it will probably not cause too big a mess, unless it's the cheese. Cheese causes a fucking huge mess. And now, just check those sides, make sure nothing's going to pop off. Because the reason we use the Parmesan cheese is it's going to basically glue all this stuff together. So when we try to take it off and out of here, it won't be as big a deal. Now I have this set to as high as it'll go, and I'll move the slices to the right number of slices. But it is on a dark setting because you've got the bread buttered, so it's not going to burn. And then you got 6 minutes in the toaster. You're basically done. I'll show you what it looks like when it's finished. Now I forgot to put that marinated olive oil in, and so I turned it off and I just took this spoon and I went over there and put that on there, and then I turned it back on. No big deal. You don't have to be perfect while cooking, as long as the end ingredient, so you can fuck up all you want as long as the end ingredient looks good. Right? People enjoy your food. Who gives a shit how you got there? Now you'll see I have a whole bunch of this left over. You'll notice I used all the tomatoes, because once you chop tomato, you've got maybe a couple days to use it. But diced onion lasts an awful long time, so I'll just bag this onion up. I'll reuse the onion. Okay, so now we're on the last step. You can see that oil I put in there has gotten on the heating element, so you can see that it's causing some smoke. That's nothing to really worry about. The big thing you're looking for is if the cheese itself is getting down. Smoke's not the end of the world. A lot of smoke can be bad, but that's all based on, you can see it on the bottom. You can see some of the margarine has dropped, and some of the oil has dropped down into that bottom. And I've already put tinfoil down there because I knew this would be a messy job before I started, and I like my toaster oven quite a lot. So that's all that butter falling down. That's why there's smoke. That's not a problem. So even though you have it on 7, you have it on super high, you're stopping when these blobs of cheese have melted to the point where they're starting to really move. Doesn't matter what the toaster says the time is. You stop when you think the food is ready. It's one of the biggest tricks to cooking. Even though instructions say X, you cook it till Y. Now when these come out, they'll be still fairly cold, even though they've been in here for all this time. And that's good. You don't really want to, you just want to cook a tomato a tiny, tiny bit. Just enough to release some of the sugars. You don't want to do much more than that. I will laugh my ass off if for the first time in my life, making this dish, which I have made 7,000 times, I don't even think that's an exaggeration, I actually set my toaster on fire. That would be fucking hilarious. Look at me, I'm an awesome chef, and I'm going to show my friend how to cook stuff, because blah, blah, blah. Okay, so see, it's all connected together. These blobs are all cooked through. We'll give it, there's still about a minute on here, but I would say we're done. We're done. We're going to let that spread just a little more, and then we're finished. I actually think that's plenty. So we're going to stop it with a minute left, and then there's your food. Again, there's smoke. We don't care. And taking them out is a little bit of a pain in the butt, so I'll show you that too. It's the same process reversed. You just get a fork. Now the edges should be nice and crusty. The bread should be a little bit crusty, even though you've got all that margarine and that oil has gone through there. You just want to push it from the back, and again, make sure the plate is 100% flat with the piece of bread. You push it over just a little bit, and then you get it onto your plate. And you're going to be fine. I'm going to be fine at up to 3. These are in the back, so I'll have to pull them back to see something's actually, you probably can't see. A little bit of the onion's falling off. I now have to clean that out. Yeah, no big deal. And I need to get, I would usually use one of my silicone things for this. Just push this, there you go. Just pull these forward. That one was stuck, which means maybe I failed on the cheese. Well, no, I don't know why it was stuck. Push it forward, catch it onto the plate, let it slide the rest of the way. And the last one's sort of a pain in the ass. Again, it's just the same process. You may have to stop halfway, hold it, and carry it somewhere else, and then put it onto a different plate, or just move things around, put it onto that plate. Super easy. Really tastes good. You should have no problems with this whatsoever. Pretty clean down there. I gotta pick up that one piece of onion, which I'll do after I turn this out. And there you go. You've got a meal. It's healthy-ish. I don't really cook healthy. And it's good. Promise you this tastes good. And it took, you got maybe 10 to 15 minutes of prep, and then you got 7 minutes of cook time, so maybe this took 21 minutes in total. And you could easily be making something else. You could make a stir fry like the one I showed you the other day. I'm actually going to eat some of the stir fry from the other day with this. That's going to be my dinner. And I hope that helps you with your own cooking, because I really think anyone can cook. You don't have to be a genius to make food. The big thing, one of the big tricks is also just to clean up after yourself as you go. Because otherwise you end up with there's a bunch of shit. I'm sure you have a kid. I'm sure you make a billion meals, and this is all mostly a joke about not cooking stuff. But I don't know. I thought it would be maybe helpful, and if it's not, it's not. Anyway, that's that.